Vienna, let's take a look at what you've done in this set of essays. We've got the rainfall line graph. The line chart compares the amount of rainfall in 3 territories of the United Kingdom, including England, Scotland, and Wales over 12 months in 2018. Okay, so it's actually called a line graph. So we call them I can't talk, sorry. We call them pie charts, bar charts, but we call them line graphs. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, one little thing, it's a detail, but it's something that always kind of strikes me when I see it. It's not including, because when you say including, that's as if it's implying that there are other ones as well. Okay, so, but that's not the case, because these are the three territories that are involved here. So instead of saying including, you could have simply done a comma or a colon. All right, so in 3 territories of the United Kingdom, comma, England, Scotland, and Wales, comma, over 12 months in 2018. And then you would have been fine. But including makes it sound like, oh, well, there are others, but here are some of the ones that are included. All right, let's keep going. Firstly, rainfall intensity fluctuated at these 3 places over the whole year. In England, the range of fluctuation was the narrowest, with the wettest months in July, September, and December, with a rainfall at approximately 125 ml. You don't need this at all, okay? Followed by February and April at 120 and 115 respectively. Furthermore, the driest months in England were May and June at 75, which was nearly, threefold the rainfall in the driest month for Wales. Okay, I think the way you did this was interesting. You almost treated it like it was a bar chart with the way that you went over your information. The thing is that this is a chronological chart. All right, and so what do chronological charts do? They essentially tell us a story over time. So the story starts in January and then it continues, and then, oh wow, look at this low in this part of the story, and then they go higher, and et cetera, et cetera. So when it is chronological like this, you may want to think about describing it in a chronological way. Is that the only way? No. I think what you did was interesting. I would have to see the way the rest of your answer develops. But for me, when it's chronological and it shows you a year, it makes sense to talk about it chronologically. Okay? So let's see what your data points were. All right, so you had 3 here with the wettest month. So you talked about those peaks. And then you talked about these 2 points, which I didn't really understand. And then you talked about the lows. You talked about May and June. So you actually talked about more information than I probably would have for England. For me, the important points of England are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. Okay? Yeah, that's it. Those are the important parts. Why? Because it's the beginning, it's the end, it's the highs, and the low. That's it. Okay? Let's see what else you did. Also, I didn't really love this. I understand that you're trying to segue into Wales, but I didn't really feel that this was particularly useful because you haven't told us anything about Wales yet. So I think what would have been more useful is if you then talked about Wales in this paragraph, and then when you got to the driest month in Wales, you could have said, this is 3 times lower the figure for the lowest rainfall in England. Okay? Or as the previously mentioned lowest figure in England. So something like that would have made a little more sense to me here. Okay? All right, let's see. Secondly, in Wales, it was found that the highest volume of rain happened in July at 130, then followed by May at 110, November at 105, February 75. The intensity of rainfall was the lowest in April at 25, and across the season from August to October at 40 a month in 2018. All right, so let's see how many data points you picked for Wales. Let's see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's really quite a bit, isn't it? We'll talk more about that in a minute. Thirdly, Scotland apparently had the widest range of rainfall distribution in 2018, with the wettest months in March and October, both at 130. January, July, and December were also quite rainy with a volume of 120, 115, and 110, respectively, whereas February was the driest month at 20 ml only, which was just 1/6 of the rainfall of the wettest month in Scotland. Okay, that's useful. Overall, the distribution of rainfall at these three territories fluctuated widely throughout the year of 2018, with no clear trend recognized, and in general, more rainfall occurred in England than the other two places. All right, so I'm okay with this. I definitely felt like you included too much information. This paragraph had just too much. All right, it was a lot of language. You did not need all of it. You should have tried to, yeah, it was 102. This is 250 words. So you really should have tried to condense this. Now, I already told you the data points that I think are important for England. Let me tell you the important ones for the other two countries as well. So I'm going to start with Scotland. And the reason I start with Scotland is because it's the one that starts the year with the highest rainfall. And that's one of the things that I like to signpost. Okay? So you could say of the three countries, Scotland started with the year with the highest rainfall at 130 ml or whatever, 125, whatever that is. Okay? And then I would say the following month, it dropped to its lowest point to 30 ml, or no, maybe 20 ml. Okay, before it reached the first of two peaks in March at 130, whatever that number is. The second peak was in October. In the period in between, there was considerable fluctuation. Scotland ended the year slightly lower than it began at just over 100. That's it with Scotland. So what did I mention? I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, just mentioned there was fluctuation, and then 5 points. Now for Wales, I would say the following. Here are my points. Beginning 1, low point 2, 3, the high point, 4, this, because it's the only period of stability we see anywhere in the graph, and then 5. Okay? So those are the points I would mention. You don't really need to mention anything else. You can just mention that there is considerable fluctuation throughout. And if you've said it at the beginning in your introduction or in your overview, you don't really have to do a lot else regarding those fluctuating periods. So that's how I would do that. I hope that helps you kind of understand how to do it and gives you some ideas. Like I said, I did feel like you wrote too much. I'd be interested if it took you 20 minutes. So I want to go on to your task 2 about fathers staying home while mothers work. There is a recent debate on whether fathers can take up the responsibility of childcare at home, whereas mothers continue to develop their career. I would have preferred while mothers continue to develop their career. In my opinion, no fixed roles should be restricted to either parent, and this can benefit both the families and society. This essay will discuss the view using a study by Harvard University and a survey by United Nations as examples to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, so this is a very nice read. I liked it, but there was a problem. You've got 2 questions here. What could be the reasons, and is this positive or negative? You did tell us that it's positive, can benefit both families and societies, but I don't see anywhere where you mentioned that you're going to talk about reasons. I saw you simply say no fixed roles should be restricted to either parent. So to me, it's not clear that you're going to be talking about the reasons. It sounds almost like you're going to be talking about something totally different. Maybe you're going to talk the entire time about why you are in favor of this kind of thing happening. Okay, so why is this important, you ask? Well, for 2 reasons. Number 1, your introduction needs to essentially introduce what your body paragraphs are going to be about. If it doesn't do that, then it's not a cohesive essay. Okay? On the other hand, if this is how you developed it and you talked about no fixed roles should be restricted, et cetera, and you didn't talk about the reasons, then it's an essay that is also not on topic. Okay, that there's some elements here that are definitely off topic responses. So you could see why we pay attention to the introduction, even though it's not on the band descriptors per se. you still have to make sure that you do a good job with it. Okay, so let's keep going. Firstly, there is ample evidence that it may be financially beneficial to some of the families, not some of the, just to some families. When you say to some of the families, it's as if we know which families you're talking about. So some families, if mothers go out to work instead of fathers. The reason behind this is nowadays both genders have equal opportunities for higher education and career promotion. It is not surprising that some females may work at more senior positions in companies and earn more income than their husbands, so that this group of mothers is able to provide better financial support and higher quality of lives to their families. For instance, an empirical survey by United Nations revealed that 30% of women have higher income than their partners in 2020. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that some of the mothers can bring advantages to their families if they work instead of their husbands. Okay, so what you've done in this paragraph is you've done a really nice job of analyzing why mothers are going out to work. What you've not talked about here, and for me is really missing, is why fathers have decided to stay at home. Because the way you phrased it, especially here, if they work instead of their husbands, it's as if it's either an all or nothing. So either wives work or fathers work. There is no middle ground where both work. So I thought that was rather strange. I thought it was rather limiting. To me, I think it's really worth talking about why the fathers would agree to stay home. All right, because this is really rather a role reversal, isn't it? Okay, where men are not going out to work, but instead they're at home raising children, cooking, cleaning, whatever. So I think it's also an important element in this essay to address that issue rather than just focusing exclusively on the mothers. Okay, let's keep going. Secondly, some people argue that letting women, there's something awkward here. Letting women replace the traditional role of men. No, this is wrong language here. We don't replace the traditional role of men. You could say, some people argue that letting women play the traditional role of men, that would make sense. To work outside represents fairness and gender equality in the society. This is largely because the cultural bias that mothers should be responsible to raise their children as housewives should no longer exist in the present society. This allows everyone to give play to their strengths, and be assigned a role. They are able to do the best regardless of their sex. Males can be good at raising and educating their children, while females can have outstanding achievement in their careers, so division of labor and families should not be restricted by their genders. For example, extensive research by Harvard University found that the awareness of fairness and gender equality is more highlighted in a society if more fathers participate in taking care of their children as stay-at-home fathers. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that switching of the traditional roles between mothers and fathers has a positive influence on the promotion of equal opportunities and rights between men and women in society. Okay, good. Again, in society, not the society. To conclude from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that the trend of males taking up the task of childcare while women, no, there doesn't say women anywhere, while females continuing their, males taking up the task of childcare while females, no, one more time. I firmly believe that the trend of males taking up the task of childcare while females continue their career has more advantages for the families. No, for families, get rid of the. For families and societies, predicted that more and more breakdown of traditional gender role. It is predicted that more and more breakdown of traditional gender roles will happen in the near future. Or it is predicted that there will be more breakdown of traditional gender roles in the near future. So I liked a lot of this, Vienna. I thought you did a really good job on the whole. There were just a couple of things that I talked about. So you know what I think need a little work. I think you need to talk about fathers a little more in that first body paragraph. But on the whole, I think you did a lovely job of this. Okay. Also keep in mind what I said about your introduction and how it really needs to provide a very accurate summary, essentially, of what your paragraphs are going to cover. Okay. So keep at it. You're doing great. We've got another essay on us. So get started with that and we'll meet back here. Good luck.